Hey there, how's it going, everybody? If you are running a small business and you're tired of paying up the wazoo for your payroll provider, well, you can do it yourself. You can do it yourself even if you have over 100 employees. Take a look at this video. We're going to talk about the Virgin Islands. If you have a company in the Virgin Islands, I mean, it's not going to apply to 99.99999% of people, but if you do have a company in the Virgin Islands and you have a lot of employees, you will be happy to see this video and perhaps use this file if you want to take control of it and do it yourself. So there you go. We have 120 employees in this file. This is a weekly pay period, but we're going to mess around and also make the paychecks work if you want to pay somebody bi-weekly instead of weekly. That's going to be happening in this file in the future. Here are 127 Pokemon characters. I don't know what any of them look like. I'm sure my son does. But we have a lot of employees. You can see this file can handle a lot of information, right? You got all this employee data, and you can enter in information for your employee, their name, their SOCH, if they're filling out an old W-4 or a new W-4. If you're filling out a new W-4, it starts to cue you into questions that you have to answer about it, like if they filled the box. And we're not going to make this a big, huge video about filling in that kind of payroll information, but you enter in all this stuff here. You enter in a workers' compensation type because I believe they require workman's comp in the Virgin Islands for, I believe, all businesses from what I've read. So you will want to say, they're working or they're a regular worker comp applicable employee probably because we are going to be calculating that automatically in the file. Now, as you get all your employee information in here, you can scroll down and you can see that at the bottom there's a couple key bits of information for your business. What is that workers' comp rate that we were talking about? Put that percentage here. Also, unemployment. Their Virgin Islands, I believe, has unemployment up to 26,500 in employee wages. The first 26,500 is going to be at some rate that's going to be assigned to you, and you would put that there. And once you filled in all this with your 120 employees, you are ready to look at putting in their hours. And that's in the daily entry sheet. Choose the name, put the date, put the type of hour. There's also an area for project pay and tips. If you're interested, we won't go over it in this video. So you just go down, you pick Elkins, I guess. Elkins on today, let's call it the 30th of April, worked 8 hours. I don't know what he did. But that's how easy it is. Now you go to weekly records. So this is where you have all the crux of all the formulas of all the data and all the employees and all their pay records. There are filters right here in this row number 3. And you cannot sort them, or you can, but you don't want to. Sort them is going to screw things up, but you can filter all you want. You can say, oh, all I care about is this very first pay period of the year. That was this first week ending January 3rd. Do that, and you'll see all your employees and information about all of them. And just for that one pay period, your 120 employees will show up. And then what you can do is you can start filling in relevant information. Now I have a lot of different columns here shown, but you don't need to see all these. A lot of these are just formulas and you don't need to touch them. But sometimes you'll need to enter something in one of these, like additional federal tax withheld. If one of the employees has additional federal withheld. We may not have any tips or any projects, so you probably don't even need to see that. If you're not going to use a check number for these, you can hide that, or we can get rid of that altogether. Then there's a bunch of different areas for, is there a 401k plan? Do you provide employer health insurance withholdings, life insurance, Aflac, all that stuff, which you probably won't need. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but let's say that you don't need any of that. You can just hide all that too. Then there's a bunch of other formulas over here. There's no state tax to worry about in the Virgin Islands, so who cares? You can just keep a look at, you can hide all this because you shouldn't have to do anything. It's all going to be automatic. And you're left with this, which is a whole lot easier to see and to enter in. For example, what this is telling you is that there's a red spot here because somebody has hours for a pay period and they don't have an hourly rate listed. So you just look at what all these things are called. These dark cells are formulas and the light blue cells are areas where you can enter things in. Maybe there's a garnishment, maybe there's a reimbursement or something. You can put those in there. There's a little latency in the file because it's so big with 100 and some employees, but it still works fine. And then you can go over the pay stub and you can choose your employees and choose your pay periods and you will get activity. That will just automatically pop up. And if you need different areas added to this pay stub of things that we just hid over here that you don't use, like the 401k or the retirement stuff, you just have to add a little formula in here. I won't go over it in the video, but it's pretty easy to do. And to get your paychecks to equal, right? That equals 840. So it looks like it's right. No state tax in the Virgin Islands. Here's so that's the pay stub, right? And you can look through all of your employees there, I believe. Should go all the way down to 120 or so. Then you have the simulated 941 report. The way it works in the Virgin Islands is it's a mirrored tax system. So it's essentially the same rates as the U.S., any continental U.S. state. It's like living in a state with no tax, essentially. Same federal rates. You file, and the money goes to a different place in the Virgin Islands, but the tax rates are essentially the same for that. So there's no local and no state tax, but there is unemployment, and there is FUTA. The federal unemployment rate, they're not a credit reduction state in full, which means that it's like 2.7% is the federal unemployment. It's a little higher than some of the other states. You don't get a full reduction because they still owe the government money, I believe. So what you have is you have a quarterly report here, and all you have to do is choose the quarter or choose the month or choose the whatever, and it's going to update, and everything's going to update over here, and all your totals are going to be over here. There's a total on the bottom for all your employees and all your relevant categories. They go on the 941. It's that easy. Just automatically done for you. Wow, it's super latent. That's funny. Yeah, it's pretty fast. A lot of formulas running, a lot of employees here. Then you have pivot tables where you can look at other types of reports and expand collapse. There's a million things you can do here. It's also got your the unemployment tax for the Virgin Islands, as well as the federal unemployment, proper rate, and excess wages for that as well. The W-2 for Virgin Islands has none of this at all, so I'm just going to delete it right now. It's on a normal W-4. There's no employer state, and it's actually a cool, the W-2 for the Virgin Islands stops at like line 12. I don't think there's anything after line 12 from what I saw. That's cool. So this stuff might apply, but that's what your W-2 for the Virgin Islands looks like. Still the same W-4, I believe. I don't think there's a W-4 for the Virgin Islands. And that's how this works, basically, for entering in weekly data. Now, if your employee gets paid bi-weekly, and some of these people are only going to get paid every 2 weeks, that is going to be the subject of another video as I show you how I can open up all the formulas and alter the federal tax formula based on whether you say the employee is paid bi-weekly instead of weekly. And then we got to also change the pay stubs so that those are automatic as well. So you can actually alter the number of pay periods in this file and have it work for certain employees to work however you want it to. So that will be the next video. And anyway, Virgin Islands is a very inexpensive place to be taxed. And the weather looks beautiful. I've never been, but I hope to go someday. And that's the Payroll in Excel 2020 for all 50 states and the Virgin Islands and Bahamas. Those are the ones I've done. I think maybe the Australian or Canadian tax system are going to be next. It's a global enterprise from home. So happy payrolling. It should be easy, so make it so.